Well, good evening and welcome to the About the Valley with Joe Mangiacotti, Joe from WCRN.
The Joe Mangiacotti Show.
Mangiacotti
Weekend
Show,
mornings.
but you also have a show on the net.
Well, what we do is we stream the radio show
Yep.
live, so you can watch it on our Facebook page Saturday and Sunday morning, 6 to 8 o'clock. I'm also a regular on Making Money Last. Well, I was earlier today, so every
Yep.
Thursday from 11 to noon on Jerry Doherty's fantastic money
Great show today.
And thank you, yeah. And Jerry'd asked me to join him on Thursdays as a political commentator for the show, and it's a regular thing. And Jerry joins me usually once a month.
We're going to try and get Jerry in here next week.
Yeah, hopefully Jerry Doherty will join us next week. He asked me back. Will be the Thursday before election.
Yeah, because this
And,
is the biggest 2 weeks
Yeah,
in politics.
yeah.
It only comes every 4 years.
Yeah. And I got to say, because if you look at my logo, I feel naked without my fedora, Harry. You know, so
But you're like me. You changed cars because
yeah.
we went from fall back to summer.
And that's what it was. And
Yeah.
I was going to leave, and I said, you know what? How many more days are we going to have like this? And I have a Jaguar that's low to the ground and real sporty,
Yep.
and it was worth taking out. So, and Teddy likes to take the car, the Jag out too, right, buddy? So here we go.
And it'll be soon. It won't be long before you'll be needing the truck because
Yeah, the
You-
4-wheel drive and
you'll be driving over the snow-covered roads.
yeah, absolutely.
But somebody told me last night on the other show we have that it's going to be very wet winter, a lot of rain, but not a lot of snow.
Is that from the Farmer's Almanac?
Well, that and some nature's things like the acorn
It's climate
crop.
change. It's climate change.
Yeah.
Don't you know that? Polar caps are melting. Water's rising. I don't know why Barack Obama bought a $23 million mansion on the ocean in Nantucket.
I know.
in
Why
Martha's
would you
Vineyard.
do that if
Yeah.
the
Don't you think he
if
would
the
have
oceans
gone
are rising? Yeah.
more up on Mount Wachusett or
Yeah.
something?
Right. Why are people still buying on the coast? The very rich.
Right. You should be buying in Arizona. Won't that be waterfront property eventually?
Yeah. Yeah, be no California.
So here we are.
That-
13
that-
days,
That's a
right?
great song by
12
George
days.
Strait.
What's that? Oh, water. Yeah.
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 If you believe that, I got a waterfront property in Arizona.
Arizona. Yeah, I remember that. That was George Strait, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people had to think about that. What's he talking about?
Yeah. So here we are. Tomorrow.
Well, if you remember our senator,
Which one?
the,
Markey?
No, the other one.
Kennedy, Warren?
No, Warren.
Warren, okay.
I don't want to think about it, so I forget her name.
Yeah.
When she was running, she talked about how she was on the coast of Western Mass.
Oh, I remember something like that. I
Yeah.
don't remember what it was. But
Yeah.
but she's a typical, inside 128 Boston, especially Cambridge. I swear, and I lived in Boston proper for several years when I was a little younger, and I don't think they think that once you get beyond 128, it might as well be the Berkshires, it might as well be California. They don't
Yeah.
even, and I grew up in Natick, and my neighbors, I'd say on a weekend morning, oh, I'm going to go to my parents. And that was Natick. I think it was 14 miles from door to door, right? Because it was just on the Wellesley-Natick line. And they'd say, oh, are you going to come back tonight or are you going to stay since you're going way out west? And I'm like, seriously? It's like 14 miles to my parents' house. But they inside Boston, they have this mentality,
Well,
right?
I
Which is the politics of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because and this has always been a problem we've had, is everything seems to be done for that crescent inside of 128 and to heck with the rest of the state all the time.
Oh yeah,
you know?
really. I mean, it's gotten a little better for Central Mass,
Yeah.
but I worked out in Western Mass, and everybody out there, they're Yankee fans.
Yeah. Yeah, because you've got see, in Connecticut it's divided,
Yeah.
right? You don't know what you're going to get in Connecticut, if you're going to get a Yankees or Sox.
Right.
And my sister got married and moved to Connecticut with her husband, who was a Yankee, and she's a Sox. So they were always trying to get the kids, right? My sister would be, here's Red Sox stuff, and he would be, here's Yankee stuff, But yeah, but that comes up into Springfield, a lot in Springfield. I see a lot
The
of
radio
Yankees.
station out there only carries Yankee games.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
TV out there carries Yankee games.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if the further you go, like if you go out to Pittsfield, everything is done in Albany.
Huh.
If they travel into the city, they travel to Albany.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they don't even they don't even know they don't consider we existing out here.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? I know. I know.
But,
I remember the reaction years ago when I was living in Boston. I moved out to Worcester, and the reaction, because I didn't, Worcester, I knew friends in Worcester, and I was moving out to the lake, and I thought this was fun. And the reaction I'd get when people inside 128, where I lived in Boston, and I said, yeah, I'm moving. Where are you going to? I'm moving to, they'd be all excited. Oh, yeah, that's great. Where are you going? Worcester. And they'd go, oh. I'm like, what's that about? What's that about? So I tried switching it up, Harry. They'd say, where are you going? I'd say, Shrewsbury. And they're like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what is this attitude people have? Then when I got to Worcester, I'm like, one of the best kept secrets that Worcester has ever had, I think, is the restaurants.
Oh
Worcester
yeah.
has fantastic restaurants, and I don't think a lot of people realize that outside of, well, once you come and down.
Oh yeah. If you go down, especially down on Shrewsbury Street.
Oh, yeah.
I mean.
Well, I've always said Shrewsbury Street in Worcester is what the North End is to Boston.
Yes.
And
Federal Hill in Providence.
Federal Hill and Providence, sure. That's what we need. You need a dining show,
There you go.
which we have one. It's called Out with Joe. OutWithJoe.com. Yeah, yeah. Out with Joe actually was a radio show I did years ago, and it started as an hour show, and it grew to 3 hours and 4 stations, and I had to give it up on that scale because I had ended up doing full-time financial talk on the Money Matters radio network, and so Out with Joe still exists, but it's like a 5-minute vignette show every Saturday at 6:30.
But dining shows were very popular,
Yeah.
but they took a dive with the COVID
Well,
because a lot of restaurants were closed.
This is it. I actually had Bob Luntz, the director, president of the Mass Restaurant Association, on the Out with Joe a few weeks ago to talk about what they're dealing with in the relief package. And it can be as high as 2/3 of in some areas of restaurants not coming back from this.
Right.
And so obviously the Out with Joe dining show, I mean, I've been doing the Mass Restaurant Association, I've been doing COVID news, I've been doing, talking to some of the restaurants who have done that, because a lot of these people have stepped up. And they, like Bucks, right? He's making meals in for the healthcare workers and delivering to the hospitals and stuff. And he's doing night, because he said a lot of, all these other restaurants that are doing it do it during the day. Well, what
Yep.
about all the overnight? They're 24/7. So he's doing a lot of meals.
They actually need the meal more so.
Yeah, so he delivers meals to, and that's Bucks in Worcester, and that's a great, one of my favorite restaurants. It's, it's not huge and stuff, but it's great food.
But these guys, we're going into the cold months. They were making up a lot of their space by outside
Yeah,
dining,
that's
but
the
that's going to be gone.
Yeah.
They're going to suffer again
Yeah.
unless we can go back to normal seating.
Yeah. What I don't understand is how comes the masks and the washing your hands and all that works in some cases, but not in other cases. Meaning that, if you're 70, 80 years old, don't go out to a restaurant, but also
Right.
don't go to the post office, don't go to the grocery store, don't go to the bank, have other people do all that stuff. But otherwise, why can't we just practice the same, wear the mask, and that's what we're doing. We're wearing the mask into the restaurants, and when you sit at the table, and are you really going to go out to eat with people that you haven't spent time with anyway? In other words, you're going
Right.
with your family and friends that you were in the car with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You were at your own dining room table with. You were in the office with.
You live with them.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
I
But it comes down, if you've got a problem, if you know you're receptive, if your immune system is being challenged by something else,
yeah,
you gotta take extra precautions.
yeah.
I'm 72, but I don't have any problems. So, and I don't even get the flu.
President beat it big
Yeah.
time. Of course, he had the
And he's what, 73?
73. He's your age,
Yeah.
So, and he's a guy. Yeah, he's overweight, but Donald Trump, he's never had a drop of alcohol. Never does
Nope.
drugs. He doesn't have high blood pressure. He doesn't. In other words, he has none of those conditions a lot of people get later in life. So that was in his favor.
He also had, well, he's not bad now, but he had that Germophobia.
He
Didn't
still,
like-
yeah, he still has that.
Yeah, but he-
which is why that whole Moscow prostitute story was
Made no sense at all.
such a crock, you know. But it didn't stop the Leslie Stalls and everybody else in the world going. By the way, that 60 Minutes
He
tape. So
he taped it.
he's
and
pulled
he's
the curtain
released
back.
it.
He has, yeah. So, and I'm glad for that because he pulled the curtain back. And I'm sick of the media all sitting down, showing zero respect for the office of the presidency and being hostile. Being hostile. Look at the Guthrie there when he did that. She asked a ridiculous number. It's supposed to be a town hall, and what did the audience ask? Like 10 questions, and she had like 40. I
Yeah.
mean, it was ridiculous. She wasn't there to attack him, but she needed to get her street cred with the liberal press and the libs, and you know.
But you know that 60 Minutes would have edited that tape to make him look bad.
Yeah,
And
Well,
he
we've
knew
seen
that. That's why he taped it,
Yeah.
and he released an unedited version.
Mm-hmm.
So he got his point across, because they would have chopped it wherever they had to make it look different.
All right, so we are less than 2 hours from
The debate.
the third, which is really the second, or
Yeah.
the second, which is really the third, however you want to put
Well,
that.
here again, I wouldn't even call it I wouldn't say that about it because they changed the format. It was supposed to be about international politics.
Well,
about-
here's the interesting, because I watched Martha on Fox. They had one of the people from the Presidential Commission on Presidential Debates. And I actually learned something I didn't realize. I really thought that the Commission on Presidential Debates had a lot to do with the content, the questions and the topics, but they don't. So apparently, according to them in the interview, when they select the moderator, it's all up to the moderator, the topics and the questions. That is problematic, okay? And this
Yep.
guy from the commission even said, you know, a lot of people have suggested, and we're even thinking about going forward to have a conservative and a liberal, two moderators.
That's what they should do.
Like, it took you how many years to think about that? That would be a good idea? That's asinine, right? So the thing, that means, think about that, Harry, that's a lot of power onto one person. They get to decide by themselves what the topics will be and how the questions will be phrased. And I really think that should be a combination of conservative and liberals, that both campaigns.
And look, if you go back to the debate between Obama and Mitt Romney, when Candy Crowley said, "Oh, he didn't say that." Well, he did,
Yeah.
but she says it during the debate. Oh no, he didn't. She was absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
How do you correct it now?
Well, I mean, Guthrie did that in the town hall. Chris Wallace, I'm sorry, he did not do a good job at all on that.
Horrible.
And he didn't follow up. And this is where the bias comes in, because he didn't follow up on any of the questions, and he even steered the question away from the whole Ukraine and Moscow
He
thing.
wasn't asking Biden any tough questions.
No. So we're 2 hours and 45 minutes away from the debate. And all of this news that is broken on, and let me make something clear here. This is no longer about Hunter Biden. This is about the Biden crime family. This is
Yes.
about the pay for play. This is about the corruption of the vice president's office. And we have Joe Biden on video talking about the quid pro quo with the fire the prosecutor, which is his son's company, in essence, that he's the board of director, all right?
That they're
director on.
investigating.
And they're investigating, and he used American taxpayer in threat. And what nobody's asked, and why don't reporters do their job? And if I was a reporter in the pool,
Because they know what the answer's going to be.
well, they're going to make the guy look bad. But the question, or the follow-up, or one of the several follow-ups to this should have been to Joe Biden. When you're saying that you told him, when they said you can't do that, you're not the president, and he said, go ahead, call him. Well, Joe, what does that mean? Are you saying that President Obama was in on this shakedown? Did you have a conversation that you were going to leverage the $1 billion loan guarantees to get the prosecutor investigating your son fired? So was this a conversation so that did Barack Obama know that you were going to say, go ahead, call him, see if you get the $1 billion? So how much did Obama know, and when did he know it? I know that's cliche, but the question needs to be asked. When he says that, go ahead, give him a call. That totally implies that Barack Obama knew what was happening.
Look, he's his vice president. You can't tell me he doesn't know what's going on. He's not going to appoint him in charge of
Yeah.
Ukrainian, Russian,
Yeah.
and Chinese affairs
Yeah.
without knowing what's going on.
So Tony Bobulinski, so President Trump has invited him to join him tonight at the debate. Now, the
Yes.
question is, when he points him out, will the cameras turn to him?
If you don't know who we're talking about, he is the
He's
CEO
Yep.
of the
Of a holding company.
of the holding company that the Bidens formed.
And what he said, and he did confirm, and this is the thing,
Confirmed the
when I'm
email.
watching this news and you got the Juan Williams of the world trying to say, you know, this is made up, it's not confirmed, alleged. Wait a minute. Fox called, they look at the email, they call the guy up on the email, they said, is this you? Yep, this is me. Is this accurate? Yeah, and now he released a statement saying, I'm the CEO of this company, and a couple of things. The big guy in reference is in fact Joe Biden, and that millions of dollars were held for Joe, or that he received millions of dollars through all this. And he said, when I saw Hunter Biden using this as a ATM, a piggy bank, to pull the cash out as fast as the Chinese dumped it in, he started distancing himself. And he started taking security, right? You know how when people see things about to go bad, right, they get insurance policies. Remember? The whole insurance policy against Donald Trump, right? We got to get our insurance policy in case the son of a gun happens to win the election.
Then we'll be exposed.
Yeah. Well, I think that thing there, Harry, is I don't think that they ever in a million years thought that Hillary wasn't going to win. So they didn't cover that. If they knew that
they felt
Trump,
safe.
yeah, if they had been told you can try this coup, but Trump's going to win, they would have destroyed their phones and emails long ago, not when the FBI started asking for them in the DOJ, which is a whole nother set of crimes, by the way.
We know the Hillary people destroyed everything.
Yeah, yeah. And so do we now with the
Bo
agents.
Biden wasn't smart enough to do that.
Hunter.
Hunter Biden, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bo's his brother.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden wasn't smart enough to do it.
Bo's the good one, the good son.
Yes. Well, we don't know that either.
Well, but you know, at least he was
far.
respectable and he, you know, served
because
his country.
the whole family's involved.
The brother, it is.
Yeah.
It is. You know, what about now, Hunter? The text that they've got, and this is all online, guys. You know, we're not delusional here. It's on. You can get copies of these text messages that have been released and the emails that have been released, and the one that Hunter talks about. And this is interesting. At least when I guess he's venting to the kids, and that's personal stuff. You know, I don't get any respect. That's okay. That's all personal. I don't care about that. I care about the crime part. That's you know, that you can corroborate in there. And he says, unlike Pop, Joe Biden, I'm not going to take half of your salary.
Right.
So this is it. So Joe Biden blesses these leveraging the name in the introductions, but hey, if that isn't mafioso 101.
But you know, you got Adam Schiff coming out and saying, "Well, we're not going to believe the director of national intelligence,
DNI and FBI.
right? But we will believe the FBI." Well, the FBI came out today and said we're investigating this as money laundering.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that, Harry, is the Democrats view the FBI director as their guy, but the DNI director, right, as a Trump guy. So no credibility. You can't believe anything he says. I mean, just there's a laundry list of things that the Democrats are doing, like the whole virus issue, right?
Yes.
I mean, this is wrong. First of all, let me tell you something, in case you didn't know. Donald Trump's not in the basement of the White House making a virus, making a vaccine. He's not the scientist. He's just the president. These companies have been doing this for years and years, and there are FDA rules and regulations, and they're adhering to all of them. Why is it so fast? It isn't Donald Trump holding a gun to their head saying, you're going to make this up, I don't care what it is. He did something that nobody did before, and when you think about it, it's quite genius in its thing. Instead of waiting to do the next phase after, everything simultaneously.
Right.
So that if this does actually work and it passes all of the regular FDA programs and safeguards, we already have it made. Now we don't have to ramp up for 2 or 3 months and make 1 million or 2 million vaccines, right? So that's all what that Operation Warp Speed is
Well,
about.
coming into the virus, I still wonder, nobody's talking about this. It did come out of China.
You know,
They sent people here with it. That's how it got here. How did it get around the world?
well, they had, first of all, they encouraged the celebration of Chinese New Year
Yeah.
with millions of people. They stopped travel
But
within China, but let everybody leave.
let everybody
from Wuhan.
leave. So don't tell me now. At the time, you got to admit, everybody has to admit, we had a great economy. Everything was booming.
See, Leslie Stahl told the president, no, remember that in that 60 Minutes?
Yeah.
He says that we had, we had this great economy. And she goes, well, no, you didn't. We really didn't.
Oh
That's
no,
not-
it was better under Obama. Yeah. Okay.
And he just he flushed though. He said no, we did, and then he keeps going. But that's just all you have to do. Look at any matrix, right? Check the GDP. Check the unemployment rate. We have the average family.
The numbers prove it out.
Exactly.
You know-
In revenue, and this wasn't all rich, Harry. This was a blue-collar boom, right? Because the average typical family had as much as a $6,000 increase to the household,
Right.
right? And then the Obamacare Act, or ACA, which, is back in the front burner here, the costs went ridiculous. The deductibles
But
went to
not only that-
15,000, 20,000. The premiums went up, and it
We
it
had the
accomplished
slowest
nothing.
growth ever
Yeah.
under Obama.
Now the new numbers coming out, and they're coming out, and what I was surprised at is the car sales are through the roof.
Yeah.
It's like nearly like 200%.
But Obama comes along and says, I saved the car industry. The sales were crap even after you supposedly saved it.
Yeah. What I liked about that is all the car companies, except for one, had their hands out, and it was
Yeah.
Ford. Ford said thank you, but we're all said they had 92 and 93 billion dollars in the bank, and they said no because there were the strings attached. Remember, this was a
Right.
weird thing. The government was going to have stock or ownership or whatever, whatever
The
details
government
was.
got stock out of it,
Yeah.
and then they sold that stock at a later date.
So that's a little weird. I never really got was a supporter of that. I don't like that slippery slope that the government should not ever own any
Right.
business.
Ford's
That's
still a
not the
family-owned
wrong
company.
Yeah, Ford is still actually, yeah. Yeah, the great grandson is chairman now, yeah.
Yeah, but they're still family owned.
Yeah.
So the
But they
family
said no.
owns the
They said-
majority of the
So
stock.
Ford, which I'm excited because, they're bringing back the Bronco in 21.
Yes.
And one of my favorite trucks I ever had was a Ford Eddie Bauer, Ford Bronco Eddie Bauer. It
Yeah,
was a
so
great truck.
to match it, GM's bringing back the Hummer.
Yes, all electric.
Yeah, whole electric
Have you seen
Hummer.
this? All electric Hummer, $112,000, 300 horsepower. It can go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Fantastic.
Those are some kind
Yeah.
of
They
motor
also
on there.
revamped the Trailblazer too. So
Yeah.
we've slipped into an auto show now. This is cool. That's
Yeah.
good. I can talk cars. I love cars. Yeah.
That's what we just need to have a conversation. If
Yeah.
you want to join
Oh,
us,
yeah,
just give
yeah.
us a call.
So this weekend. So I've been having a lot of candidates on. Helen Brady's been on, and I had Kevin O'Connor running for the Senate
Yes.
against Markey. He was on my show last Saturday, the Saturday morning.
I don't think
for an
he's done
hour.
enough to get his name out there.
Well, we're trying, and he's also going to be on Radio Pride this weekend at Saturday afternoon.
I
at
wanted
3.
to get him here for this show, but we weren't able to get a hold of him.
I talk to his people all the time, Gary. If you want me, I'll ask him if he can come next Thursday.
I'll do any day. I'll do it
Yeah.
the middle of the day, whatever
Okay.
time he can make it.
All right. We'll talk to him. You
Uh,
should give
two-
me a call. I
2
would've
years
done
ago,
it.
we had every one
up?
of the people who were running for Congress, running for the Senate, all Republicans that were running in the primary appeared on this show.
Nice, yeah.
We couldn't get Elizabeth Warren to come on. We invited her, but she never responded.
Well, I think it's going to be a week from Sunday, right? So that'll be the first. My intention is to do, on that show, is to do the ballot questions.
Yep.
To go over what they are, what the yes vote means, the no vote means. Obviously, ballot question 2.
But
Look,
that's a
the
definite no.
ranked choice voting. You got a no on that. We do not want that. First of all, it flies in the face of our one person, one vote.
Yeah.
Well, you get to vote 3 times in the same election, and no, it's just leave it alone. It seems like whenever the Democrats can't seem to win,
They come
at
up
the
with a
ballot,
scheme.
well, they go to the courts. They go to these schemes. They try to change the way you vote. Now they're calling, and I want to get to Joe Biden's comment in a minute. They're calling the president doing his constitutional duty in nominating and the Senate appointing a justice as court packing. And that's not what court packing is.
No, court packing is raising the number of judges in the court.
So now Joe Biden finally comes out in this 60-minute interview that they taped the other day, right, that is going to be released, and he answers the question, kind of, because what he says is, first of all, I'm going to have a 180-day commission, which is, I mean, that's the most ridiculous. That's where things go to die in Washington. Just make a commission, a blue ribbon commission, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have a blue ribbon commission, and we'll study this. But he said, we got to do this. The court's out of whack. What does that mean? In other words, as soon as...
They don't agree with them.
Well, that's it. That they don't have a majority of progressive activist judges. And that's not out of whack. You're just angry that you don't have 6 or 7 activists. First of all, judges should not be activists. I'm sorry, they should not be there.
But
what their position is or what they want, you should never know that. They should be
Right.
Amy Comey Barrett, who is, what is the letter of the law? What is the Constitution?
That's what the purpose
That's
is.
it. And how does that happen? Now, there will be some degree of interpretation. I get that. But we have the Democrats like to stack the court with these very progressive and activist judges. And look at some of these decisions they're pretzeled around to make it, even the Obamacare, right? Because, I mean, what did Roberts go through from the tax to to make it constitutional? And now most legal scholars say, yeah, that was not a good decision.
Right. He's the biggest disappointment there.
Well, that's the other thing you got to say to them is don't assume that because Trump nominated, because Trump is basing it not on if they're really conservative or they support him. That's not. He put his list out. Joe won't put his list out.
No, he won't.
Trump has put his list out. Then he updated it with 20 more people, and he's picking them on their credentials, on their as judges in lower courts, how they've performed and how they've written their decisions. And that's what we should have. A Supreme Court should be filled with constitutionalists.
Well, supposedly
originalists.
that's what Roberts was.
Yeah,
Till we got there.
But if that's where, what I'm saying is, don't be so sure that they're always going to rule
Right.
against you. Because if you have the argument and it makes sense, they're going to rule your way. Because they're not activist judges. They're not going to try to find a way to do it. So, again, that's the system. Just like winning an election. If you have, supposedly, it works if you have the best ideas and you have the best plan, and there's a degree of whether they like you or
their
not.
big thing is that if she gets on there, she's going to outlaw abortion. That's not what they do.
First of all, she can't. I
No.
mean, they really do spin it so that the low information voter, which is a nice way of saying, not too bright people,
Yep.
but the low information voters, they're spinning this like she goes onto the court and then she just says, oh, by the way, abortion. First of all, she can't even rule on it unless a case is brought
Right.
all the way up
And the
through
most
the
that
system.
could happen is the law would refer it back to the states.
Yeah.
And it would be up to the states if they want to ban it.
I can't imagine it, but unless you have, and like we've seen some of these states where they have this late term abortion, even, was it Virginia, where the governor,
Yeah.
who's a physician,
Yes.
the child can actually be born and alive, and the mother and the doctor will have a
Born
conversation.
alive and healthy and
Yeah.
decide,
Whether or not they get.
it's got blue eyes, I don't want it.
I can't even, wrap my head around that is a conversation that we're having in today's age.
I know.
First of all, how do you get to 9 months and then decide you don't want to carry this baby? You had ample opportunity, right? We have, science is catching up with this. We have the day after pill. We have, RU-486. We've got all kinds of things that can happen so early in the process that why would this be an issue in a late-term abortion?
They got the pill, it seems to work pretty well for most.
I just
If you screwed up, don't have sex. Okay? Go without, that's all,
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. I don't know if abstinence is going to fly too well, especially.
Well,
But I get your point. I absolutely get your point.
But
But my point is,
If you forgot to take your pill today,
yeah,
okay,
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you should not be debating whether or not you're going to keep this child in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th month.
right.
That's a decision you make
You know,
literally.
back when Roe v. Wade was decided, there was no pill.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Science has gone, has really taken off since R.V. Wade, and it will continue to do it. And on the same token, not only has the detection and ability to terminate a pregnancy in the very, very early stages, we've also have the ability to have a viable fetus earlier and earlier.
Yes.
So we're having people. There are people walking around today that, during when R.V. Wade was decided, we didn't have the medical ability and technology for them to have survived.
Right.
So when you're talking about a healthy child being born, breathing and alive, and the mother and the doctor are actually having a conversation as to whether to terminate this life, once they're out and they're breathing, what's the difference if they're 20 minutes old, 20 years old, or 80 years old? You're having it's a conversation about murder at that point.
Well, the thing is, by saying this is all right, you also lead into euthanasia.
Yeah,
So if someone's 80 years old and they need
it's a slippery slope, right? We got a very slippery slope.
Yeah, they need a massive operation, it's gonna cost a lot of money. Well, we shouldn't have to pay for that, just let them die.
Oh, Obama said just give grandma a pill.
Yeah, he did say that.
Give grandma a pill and make her comfortable.
And that's what you would get with national health care, because they have to keep the cost down.
Yeah. What's interesting about that, if we go to the one-payer system and the government decides everybody's health care, and I know people like to throw up Medicare and Medicaid as an example, but that works to a degree right now because we're in a capitalist society and we have people who are paying into the system and it's supporting it. When you have everybody in the world on this, everybody in the country, including people who aren't even legal citizens, that's how the Democrats would want to open it to everybody who could make it into the border. It's not going to work, and you're going to have that. My question is, Harry, will Congress have the same medical plan as everyone else?
Yeah, no way.
Why is Congress always exempt from everything, right? They've got, when Senator Hirito from Hawaii ever asked Judge Barrett about sexual, have you ever, made a sexual advance? Have you ever paid anybody to basically hush money? She had no basis to ask that question whatsoever.
There was no reason whatsoever.
And my response to that, Harry, is why don't you ask your fellow senators in Congress? Because what I would like to know is the records on that slush fund that Congress has to pay out for the sexual harassment suits that they settle with the NDAs and the hush money that they pay out, and that's taxpayer. Your taxpayer money is paying these complaints. At least Donald Trump pays his out of his own pocket.
Remember Gary Studs?
Gary Studs, and who was the one on the monkey business? The boat was
that
called
was
Edwards.
From Colorado.
He said Gary Hart.
Gary Hart.
Gary Hart, he said, "Oh, follow me around. I'm
Yeah.
okay." I don't,
And they did,
They did.
and they caught him.
And the boat, the name of the boat was Monkey Business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that tanked his career.
But Gary starts, who was involved in pedophilia.
Yeah.
With,
Another Massachusetts congressman, yeah.
and then he gets reelected.
Only in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Only in Massachusetts. Oh, that's what, going back to this, so the other part of this with this laptop, and let's talk about the laptop in a second, is they're not making, and this is what the Juan Williams of the world is trying to say is, oh, they're not coming out and making anything FBI. No, there's a bigger criminal investigation, not just the money laundering, but apparently there's a picture of Biden Hunter with a 14-year-old girl in that stash of photos.
Yeah,
so that opens
a member
up
of the Biden family
whole nother investigation and
in a
criminality.
very compromising way.
So
And so the FBI is not going to comment on an investigation.
they shouldn't anyway.
You know, you're involved in criminology.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't advertise what you're investigating because you're going to
and you
you'll
never tip your
compromise the
hand.
investigation.
Right. And that even goes back to, remember in 2016 when even Trump was a candidate, and then as president, the media would always be asking him these questions of how are you going to handle this? What are you going to say to this? And he'd look at the media and like, why would I broadcast my negotiation style or what I'm doing? It was like he was dumbfounded that the media was aggravated that
Yes.
he wouldn't answer these questions like you have to, But we've seen this mentality of these non-elected bureaucrats, whether it's in the State Department or it's in the intelligence agencies or wherever, just in Congress, where they've been there for so long in politicians come and go, but these people have been in these positions, and look at what happened during the impeachment. What I saw was a bunch of bureaucrats who weren't elected, aggravated that the president didn't run his foreign policy by them or go with theirs, that he, God forbid, the President of the United States should have his own foreign policy that he wants to implement.
I know.
Which is one of the reasons he got elected. Now
Yeah.
tonight there's no questions set up for the foreign policy. However, the commission interview with Martha, he said that there is a question about national security, and to me, that's a door
he can
to
work
open
that into
because
in foreign policy.
absolutely, because if you don't think that Joe Biden is a absolute compromised and is a threat to national
see, that's
security,
the
you're
other
not
thing.
paying attention.
The reason Trump has had so much, he says drain the swamp, but what it is you're not agreeing with the bureaucrats who really want to run the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the way the system's supposed to work. You're supposed to be able to elect people to represent you, the majority of the people's feelings, and that's what he's doing. He
Yeah.
said he was going to get us out of all these wars, in the Middle East and in Afghanistan. Why are we sending our guys over there? Over 20 years now.
Yeah.
We're going to end it. Well, the bureaucrats don't like that. They don't want it ended.
Yeah.
Even Joe Biden said he would keep
Yeah.
it going.
And this is a president who started no new wars, has brought soldiers home.
Yeah.
And I mean, right down to the fact that he's negotiated better deals on fighter jets, for crying out loud. Even Air Force One.
Yeah.
Right, Air Force One, they're
Yeah,
trying to hit us up for $4 billion.
He personally gets involved.
He got involved, and he
And
gave a number.
He says, you got to cut the
Yeah.
price.
And then what he told the story, and it was they came back with the price, and he said, "Oh, and you got to throw something else in there." I forget what it was, but the point is look at all right, the embassy in Israel, right? They were
Yeah.
talking about,
How many years have we heard they were going to move to Jerusalem?
but they were all putting hundreds of $1 million price tag on constructing this embassy and those
Yes.
so forth. He's a developer. He's a real estate guy. So he calls up a friend of his. He says, "Shop around." He says, "Well, I found this building." Anyway, it was like $20 million when you also to buy the property and to revamp it for an embassy.
But what that comes down to again is, I got to take care of this guy. He contributed to my campaign.
There you go.
I got to give him the job, and it will cost us $20 billion.
Yeah, and they don't care. So you got to remember, folks, nobody cares. All these people don't, because it's not their money. To them, it's monopoly
That happened
money.
in Iraq with
It's play money to them. It's tax money. They have no accountability. No one ever. It's okay. It's just an endless spigot of money.
Joe Biden's brother got the contract to
Yeah.
build housing
Yeah.
in Iraq.
Yeah, which is, and the thing about it, and Trump says this at his rally, right? Because his kids could cash in. The father's the president. How much if Joe Biden is asking $10 million for introductions to
Oh.
the former vice president,
Yeah.
what do you think one of the Trump kids could ask for an introduction to the sitting president of the United
Right.
States? 10 times that? I mean, what is it worth?
And let me tell you, if they even thought it, it would be all over the media.
Oh, absolutely. The Trump family's actually lost a lot of money because
Yes.
they stopped doing a lot of deals. And I could see if it was Don Jr. or Eric getting the deal to develop housing in Iraq, or where was it? Wherever it was.
Well, it was Iraq.
Iraq, all right, Iraq, or wherever. It makes sense. That's what they do. They
Right.
build
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what they do. Joe Biden's brother doesn't do that.
No, but it has nothing to do with their skill set. Now, Hunter Biden was in that interview where he talked about that, and he admitted that he wouldn't basically anything he got if he wasn't the son of the vice president.
Right, if his brother
if his
was the
name
vice
wasn't
president.
Biden. He
Yeah.
understood that. And when asked about was he qualified to be on the board of directors, he said as qualified as anyone else there.
Well,
Or more so because your name's Biden. And here's a guy who never even went to Ukraine. He had the meetings he had were out of country, right, somewhere else. And this money, in with all of the Russian hoax with Donald Trump, what would have happened if one of Donald Trump's children got a $3.5 million wire from the mayor of Moscow's wife?
I know. That's part of the money laundering.
What is that about? I mean, and why aren't we watching this, right? Why isn't it, in other words,
Well, not,
if
it's not
somebody
getting
wired me
reported anywhere.
$3.5 million,
It's only getting reported on a couple of places.
but that amount of money coming into a bank in the United States,
Yeah.
that's not sending off red flags.
I know.
I think it's they lowered the limit. I think it's like $7,500 or something now. But I'm telling you, if I had
Yeah, it's under
$3.5 million
$10,000.
wired into not even my personal account, into one of my business accounts, you don't think that I'm going to get a
And the
phone call or
reason
a
is
visit?
because it's considered drug money.
Well, first,
to try
a
to
lot of
stop
things
the drug
changed
money
after
and the
9/11.
laundering.
The Patriot Act changed a lot of how banking is done.
Yeah.
And
Also
and that's
because a
okay.
lot of people, the
Yeah,
terrorists
it's-
would dump the money in
Yeah.
to fund themselves.
And the media is not doing their job. Nobody's asking these questions, and they're fair questions, folks. They're not. It's not phishing, and it's not. What do they accuse it of? Just slander. It's not. It's legitimate questions to ask.
I want to know is how he became a multimillionaire spending the last 47 years in government.
Yeah, well, everybody has that question. Look at 1% of the population in the United States are millionaires. Yet 50% of Congress are millionaires.
Yeah.
And that when we hear, Donald Trump's taxes, and first of all, this whole censoring stuff, by the way, right? Where were the big tech companies when people are tweeting out Donald Trump's tax returns or like stuff that nobody should legally have access to? Okay,
They could broadcast that.
they can broadcast that, so that whole thing. The problem is, right? They keep calling these big tech companies up, and they put on a show, dog and pony show, but nothing happens.
Yep.
I think they might have shot themselves in the foot with this New York Post story, and they're still banned on Twitter, by the way. So the thing about that is, hopefully, enough people in the thing here is both sides of the aisle have a problem with big tech. Elizabeth Warren wants to take a sledgehammer to these companies. So I don't think you're going to have that much trouble getting Congress to do something. Look, we broke Marbell up when Marbell became too big and too
Right.
powerful. And what Twitter and Facebook are doing right now, and to me, in essence, they should be treated like a public utility at this point. It would be like you and I having a conversation on our cell phone that we have Verizon, say, and Verizon deciding they don't
Well,
like the
what I want-
conversation we're having, so they shut our cell phone off.
Why can't another company like Twitter come out?
Well, they can, but they can't survive because either Twitter will
Well,
squash them or buy them out, and that's what's been
but
going on. Is they've been buying all these companies up.
Twitter came out after Facebook
Mm-hmm.
and took a lot of business away from Facebook. So why couldn't someone come up with the same idea if they could put it together?
Well, there are alternatives. Like, I mean, there's Pinterest out there, but there's also Parler. Parler is a Twitter-like type thing, which is acting
and that's
like a
what people
platform.
should do. Go to those companies.
So the thing here, and what we probably should explain, because I don't know if everybody that's listening right now or watching this understands what Section 230 is. Now, Section 230 is back when, in the late 90s, when this internet thing was coming together and people really didn't understand
Right.
what it was, Congress gave an exemption because they didn't know what it was going to grow to, right? So we all think now, we don't think anything of it, but you got to go back 20, 25 years, nobody knew what this was going to turn into. So they said, well, we got to afford some protection for liability, because if they're a platform, that if somebody makes a
someone
comment,
said, yeah.
they can't be sued and held responsible.
Right.
So they got this exemption. It's called Section 230. But that means that if you're a platform, and that's what they sold to Congress at the time, their argument, we're just a platform. We're a vehicle for people to do this. We would be like someone going downtown back in the old days and putting a flyer up on the community bulletin board, or the town crier standing on a soapbox yelling. Okay, that's what they sold it on. So Congress said, fine, we're going to exempt it. People can't sue you for whatever's on your site. Got it?
Yeah,
So
you
now
can't get sued for libelous.
Now they're acting like a publisher, though, and they're deciding content, they're
Yes.
editing, right?
Right.
They're doing so now. You're behaving like a publisher. Let's treat you like a publisher. We got to remove that Section 230 protection and be a publisher. But you got to be transparent and let everybody know what it is you're doing. Because if you're a platform, you don't touch anything. And it comes down to, I mean, like when they come out and told us about Iran and Russia with these emails, and great, and I'm glad, and I wish Obama had done it in 2015. But the point is, my question is, who are the idiots that are falling for the emails? It's like I get a few times a week, right? My phone rings and I get this automated call telling me about my Social Security card or number in violation.
Yeah, I got one
it's going to be
today.
shut off, and I got to go down to Walmart and get money. Like this stupid stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
people fall for that.
I got one day, and I says, "Oh, am I glad you called? Because I work for the Massachusetts Attorney General's office." Click.
Been trying to get, yeah. I usually try to eat, if I'm not that bad, I'll try to eat up the time. Or I say, oh, hold on, let me go get that information. And I listen, but I put it on mute and keep them on. At least if they're on for 15 minutes with me, they're not
going after someone else.
Yeah, scamming some old lady somewhere, right?
Yep.
But it's crazy.
Well, like I told you, I got that call from the polling company. I don't know who they were, but the first thing they say, "Are you a registered voter?" And I said, "No, I'm an illegal alien, but I'm going to vote Democrat."
Yeah. Yeah. And the other stuff that comes up, Harry, that's really is something is the left is always trying to tell us there is no evidence of voter fraud. Yet almost every day there's an article in the paper or online about ballots being lost or being harvested and falsely filled out.
How do you harvest ballots? That makes no sense.
Well,
even the
if
phrase.
anybody, what I can tell you right now is either I hope you go to the polls in person, but if you don't, make sure that you follow the absentee and confirm it. And do not give your ballot to anybody. If somebody comes knocking or offers to mail it for you or drop it off for you, don't do that.
No.
Don't do that. Do it in person. And if you because I got the thing in the mail unsolicited, which aggravates me. It should not be that way.
You got a ballot unsolicited?
Yeah. Well, a request for a ballot thing.
No, Massachusetts did it in the best way possible. You got a card in the mail. You have to mail that in. It's the same as requesting an absentee ballot. So, and then they would have mailed it to you. All right? But these states that just mailed ballots directly to everybody's address.
And the other thing is, they're not, and this whole stimulus package, by the way, folks, it's Nancy Pelosi was trying to slide in this stuff like eliminating the whole security envelope. The process that you do with this ballot is you put your ballot
Right.
into what they call a security envelope so that nobody can see it because it's supposed to be anonymous. But yet, I've talked to people who've gotten for the absentee thing, and their return address is printed, and there's a big R or D on it. That means everybody can tell whether you're Republican or Democrat. So that's going through the post office.
Well, that's wrong.
If a postal worker who's a hardcore Republican or Democrat sees the opposite letter, they can just swoop that up.
Yeah.
It's absolutely asinine.
I got to say, I early voted,
Yeah.
and
You have till the 30th for that in
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
and the system is so tight in this town, and if they follow what our town clerk has done, there'll be no problem. But you get into the cities, and it's so loose.
Well, I don't know if it's so much as loose as I think it's purposefully because we've just too many incidences of certain party ballots being thrown into the creek or dumpsters, not being mailed out. Then we've got the situation with the wrong ballots. How do you go through the process of the printing and the proofreading and the paying for the printing and actually print the wrong ballots or with a mistake on it?
Yeah.
How many
know.
times did that have to fail?
And didn't somebody check it
Well,
before
that's what I'm
they got
saying.
mailed?
I mean, how many people had to fail at their job or allow it to happen?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you proofread it.
So it's a colossal chain reaction of incompetent people, or it was purposeful. It's only one of the two, Harry. Which one?
Yeah.
Was it done on purpose, or are you all
Well,
idiots?
I think they just figure, no problem, we'll get away with it.
Well, they have for years, right? We have gotten away. I mean,
Yeah.
every year, every presidential year, and some in the odd years too. Sometimes, the stories come out about the buses going from Massachusetts schools and colleges up to New Hampshire. They have the same day registration voting.
There's another thing,
And
too.
you follow up, and all these people that said they're moving to New Hampshire and voted that day, majority of them haven't. There's no record of them getting a driver's license
Well, the thing
switched
is,
over. Or,
if you're enrolled at a college in New Hampshire, and now you're not a resident, because a lot of places they're not taking any students physically on campus.
mm-hmm.
But in the past, if they were living on campus, they would register to vote in New Hampshire, or whatever state they were going to college in, and also register to vote back home.
Yeah, they would have the two going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you had people. You got the snowbirds, who have a home
Yeah.
in Massachusetts and a home in Florida,
Yeah.
voting in both
So
states too.
what has to happen there, folks, is people who knowingly have committed voter fraud, where and it has happened recently, right? That they
Look
did
at-
prosecute the people who purposely. Anyway, my point is, we have to put these people in jail for 30 days, 60 days. In other words, these kids that are, and I say
Make 'em
kids,
pay.
I'm at the age now, anybody under 30 is a kid to me, but I'm sure
Yeah.
you're there too, right? So the whole thing, these college students who get wrapped up in this, they go, this is cool, we're really scamming the system, we're gonna get to vote twice. And you gotta start throwing some of these kids in jail and have consequences, because voting is too important to treat less than that.
Remember the woman in Ohio who said she voted, 5 times for Obama?
I don't remember, but I don't doubt it.
It was a
Yeah.
big thing on the news about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Well,
She went to different polls.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's happening. It's happening all over the place. I mean, look, people who have been deceased, not recently deceased for years, are getting absentee ballots.
Yes.
Okay?
Then all somebody's gonna do is pick that up,
Fill
fill it out, and mail it in.
So Pelosi, back to the bill, she wanted to eliminate the signature requirement. In other words, when you vote absentee,
You have to
you
sign.
got to fill it all out, but you need a witness. So you got to do it in front of somebody. And I know people laughing at me saying, I can do it alone. I just sign somebody's name. I get that, but at least it's a procedure. But she wanted to actually eliminate the witness signature, the security envelope, and she wanted to make it illegal to undo any place that had voter ID laws, to undo those laws, that you can have voter ID laws. So this, on top of allowing stimulus money go to non-citizens, all of this is what held up the package. Right? I know the left like to say, "Oh, Donald Trump, isn't he the deal maker?" Well, sometimes being the deal maker is not accepting a lousy deal.
But we're talking, putting a voting stipulation in a package for a stimulus.
Exactly.
Let's clean this up.
And that's
We're
why
talking a
Donald
stimulus-
Trump kept saying, "Give me a
stimulus
straight
only.
stimulus." He said,
Yeah.
"You just give me a stimulus for $1,200. I'll sign it right now
Right.
and get it done."
She also was putting money in there to bail out the retirement systems in some of these states and cities.
Yeah, well, to feather the bed in poorly run Democratic states. And look, this is what has to be talked about. So it doesn't help. Nancy Pelosi does not want, or did not want, it's too late at this point anyway, did not want a package being done before the election. Anything that would have absolutely have the smallest light shed on Donald Trump could not happen.
Right.
So she didn't want the package, and she stuck this stuff in there. And hey, if he was figured he might be so desperate, like he didn't when he first got in, right? When he took that bill, and I was aggravated at that, but he did it to get the billions of dollars he needed for the military.
Yes.
Because the military apparently was in a lot worse shape than we all realized when he took over, but he did it. Right?
Yes.
He was held over the fire. He took it, and I think that's the last time they're going to get one over on him. He wasn't going to let that happen again.
No, he did it out of desperation because
Yeah.
it's the only way he was going to get that money.
Yeah, yeah. And now we have the court case about whether or not there's two things coming up into the Supreme Court, and that's what they didn't want Judge Barrett on. And one of them is the military money being redirected for the border wall.
Yes.
So that's still going to
But
be
here
heard.
again, you can't have 8 people on the court. We already ended up with a 4-4 decision. Goes back to the lower court.
Yeah. Again, remember, Joe Biden said the court is whacked, and somebody needs to have him define that. And I hope tonight the president says, "Joe, by the way, I understand you want to put a 180-day commission in place because the court is whacked. Could you please explain to me, like I'm a 5-year-old, and the rest of the country, how is the Supreme Court whacked?"
Yeah.
Because it is not loaded with 7 activist liberal judges? That's the only time the court's not whacked to you? I mean, define that term, Joe, if you can remember that you said it. It's crazy, Terry, crazy. I mean, we're an hour and 2 minutes from this debate. And
9 o'clock.
Yeah, 9 o'clock. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
I'm dying to see it. I record them. I run them through my board to get the audio. And I think I said this to you before when I was here, because you watch it and you miss stuff. And then I like to listen. Right, and the next morning I'll just listen to the audio, and you pick up the stuff you missed when you watched it live.
Right.
And it does sound, at least the first presidential debate, it really does sound like a different debate when you just listen to the audio than when watching it. And you realize that it was Joe Biden who interrupted first, and you realize that actually Biden ended up with more airtime than Trump did on
Yes,
that one.
and they finally said that at the
Yeah,
end.
and they did say it a few days later because that goes back to the control room where they're timing everything, and that mute button issue tonight. So that's the other thing is, I don't know if we covered this, I can't remember the last hour, but the mute button isn't at the moderator. It's in the control room,
Right.
being done by the same staff that's doing the camera
By an
shots,
audio
the
engineer.
timing, and everything else. And it's supposed to be, we're running out of time.
We gotta go. We
Yeah,
gotta go.
we got to go.
Joe be here next week.
And hopefully Jerry Doherty will join us
Yeah.
and join me Saturday and Sunday morning, 6 to 8 on AM 830 WCRN and live streaming on the TuneIn app.
See you next week.